Hello friends, this is a video on one of the large projects that I have undertaken since leaving the last school that I taught at last year. I took about 6 months to do almost nothing except for a couple projects, and this is one of them. It is a greenhouse in our backyard that I built from scratch with the help of several people in my life, and I figured I should do a video showing it off a little. We are in Denver proper, and this is about the biggest thing you can make for a zone like ours. And so we are not allowed to have accessory dwellings or secondary dwellings, and so this is not a dwelling. It is 200 square feet, 10 feet wide by 20 feet long. It is about 3 inches shy of the 35% line from the back of our space to the front. And let's see, what else? The highest wall plate is 8 feet, but it is actually shorter than that because as we were digging this out, I was digging this out, the backfill ended up raising the grade on the back, so it could have been even taller, but it did not need to be. Tops out at 11 feet and a few inches. Some of the materials were recycled and some of them are new for the sake of structural stability and just having a reliable product in the end. And yeah, it's been like it took 3 months of kind of full-time from me and cost just over $4,000 in supplies. And so that's kind of like the ballpark specs for people who are interested in doing such a project. And I have very, very distant plans in my head of either offering guides or courses or workshops on how to build such a thing, but it's in my head somewhere. So if you're a person who you're in Denver and you want to see something like this or something, you let me know. But let's do a little walk around here. So basically this design is modeled after the forest greenhouse style, Jerome Ostentowski, I believe. Check out that book. Fantastic primer for how this is working. But basically we have kind of a it looks like a shed, but it's not symmetrical. So this front side's very short. We have an angled side here that is perpendicular to the lowest angle of the sun for where we are on the earth. And then we have a connecting roof that then slopes down abruptly to a taller back wall. And the entire backside is covered and at least slightly insulated, and the sides are glazed with this plastic, and the east side has more glazing on it than the west side because of the door on the west side, but that was intentional because usually the afternoon sun is more intense and we don't need as much of it, and it can make a greenhouse overheat. And so on this side we have the door, less glazing, and that's as pretty good a summary as I can get for the outside. There's corrugated metal sheeting around everything, around the entire bottom edge to protect from soil contact. And then this wood is recycled fencing, and underneath it there is a layer of recycled used billboard vinyl, and under that is plywood. And you'll see on the inside that there's light insulation, but every wooden framed wall does not have any like either foam insulation or fiberglass insulation of any kind. in terms of the glazing, this is a material called Solex. It is one of the cheapest and easiest to work with materials. It's essentially like a cardboard, but made out of plastic. So it's double-walled, and it has one-directional cells, and you can cut it very easily. You can screw into it very easily, and its insulation capacity is pretty good. It diffuses light, but transmits pretty well. There's the year's first grasshopper. God! One down, 100,000 billion to go. All right, let's go inside, yeah? Or I guess before that, in terms of recycled materials or secondhand, the metal around the outside edges is secondhand. The door was secondhand. The facade wood was secondhand. All the metal that's on the back roof is the same as the stuff around the soil. That's secondhand. Not a ton else is secondhand because the rest is pretty structural. I did get some like 2x4s either from friends or Craigslist dumps or stuff like that I used for some of the framing. So some of that is recycled, but otherwise I'll show you some of the stuff inside too. And this is kind of cool because with the raised like beds, they're not beds, it's just like landscaping choices I chose to make with the extra dirt. This side looks small, so like when you come in you think like, oh, I can reach this tall, so it's only going to be a few feet taller, but this grade is about a foot taller than that end. And so when you step in, the first thing that happens is you actually step down about a foot. And because of that, it opens up really nicely. So you can see, here we are. This is the inside. It's pretty spacious. I have filled a lot of it with thermal mass, which is part of the overall design. It's part of the overall method. And to showcase that a little bit, it's these barrels. These are full of water. They're food grade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10 down here. And all of those barrels, their job is to take in heat either from sunlight or from ambient temperatures and to slowly warm up so that in the dead of winter, when the air wants to freeze in here, those barrels just release that thermal energy, again, relatively slowly, to keep the space from freezing. And it has worked. So far, I have only grown things up until about a month ago that were cold hardy, just to get a sense of what was possible. And so all of this kale, I want to see what else. We had the mint in that pot was there at the time. This ARP rosemary, I think that's all that was in there, but I started those sometime in January, and this space did not get any artificial heat, and they all survived the cold snap that we had that was down to 5 degrees. And there was only one day that I was really worried. It did get below freezing in here. So I think hopefully across this coming summer, these barrels will gain the mass that they need to carry us through such cold spells in future winters. But because I finished this in November, so these barrels never got through, they haven't been through a summer yet. The space hasn't been through a summer yet, and we'll see how that plays out. And then the other thermal mass, which is new, is this up-and-coming aquaponics system. And so this is another, like, 150 gallons of water and the rocks that get heated by the weather. Ooh, exciting. I think we're about to see the system go. And so this is just a gravity-fed aquaponics system. No fish yet. They're about to come in soon. Just a couple little plants. It's just getting started. But it runs a pump of water just right into the bed, and then uses an auto siphon. So as the water level overflows that inner tube, starts to come out here, and eventually enough of it comes out at once that it forms a pure column of water coming out. And we should see that. There it goes. So it starts coming out so strong that it's actually able to pull all the water from the bed down through that tube that has a cap on an outer tube, pulls the whole thing out, drains all on its own without any kind of timer or valve or anything. And then as it drains, the suction is broken when there's not enough water to carry through, and it starts filling up again. It's amazing. I love it. I'm so excited. We're gonna shoot for some tilapia and some bluegill. We'll see what happens. And then over here we've got a prepared bed. So this is like in-ground local soil, which is just clay, removed, and had some actual soil put in. No offense to the clay, but it is actually just purely clay. And then the same thing has been done over there to a lesser extent so far, and right now that space is just being used for seedlings for the coming growing season. So our tomatoes and peppers, tomatillos, basil, some cole crops, they're all just kind of chilling, waiting for the right day. And this was a random trade with a neighbor who happened to have an ice cream bean tree that I've always dreamed about sampling the fruit of, and haven't had the chance. And they were like, yeah, I think I'm probably gonna give this tree to my family in LA and drive it out there. And I was like, you're gonna drive a tree to LA? What kind of tree is it? And they told me. I was like, no way. So anyway, it now lives here, and Renee and I are gonna split the first ice cream bean and see how it is, hopefully someday. But yeah, so this is the interior, and so the shell, the like rib cage, if you will, is 2x4s. All of the supporting structure are laminated beams that I made myself. Did all the measuring, did all the cutting, did all the mounting. Had some help with moving in some of the wall frames, because like this one was 10 or 8 feet tall by 20 feet wide, and we did it in 2 sections. I had help getting that into place. I had help with some of the concrete footers. So like all of these big posts have concrete footers in the ground, and that's how they're anchored. I had help with some guidance on like how to best do that. Shout out to Lance for help with the footers. Shout out to Creighton and Jen for helping with the wall panels. Had help from Creighton and Creighton's dad putting in the Solex. Like, I was definitely the squirrel person on top of the structure, and but definitely had help with that. And then this is just insulation that I have loosely, stapled, gunned all along this back wall, and that's gonna do it for now. And again, we'll see sort of what the limitations are as we move through the seasons. Future plans, I forgot to mention, this is just like a large water container that I can take out of to water things, and some drip lines to both of those beds from that container, so I can like just turn that valve and they all get watered, and that way I don't have to bring a hose in and out of here every couple days. I can just use a reservoir for that. And then what else was I gonna say? Yeah, had help with the door, thanks to Josh for helping me install the door. Doors and windows are such a pain in the butt, and the windows are actually really cool. So these are vents. Shout out to Creighton for all of his guidance on the entire thing, but also those vents in specific as well. The vents have these fantastic little pistons attached to them, and inside the cylinder part of the piston is this mineral wax that, when it physically warms, expands. And so you can set the the sensitivity on each of these, but essentially as they get warm, they open the windows. And so there's a vent on the top of each side, and there's a vent sort of just off center in each direction here. And so as this place heats up, it lets out hot air, which is pretty cool. And it was working really well because today it's about 70 degrees here. It's been quite sunny all day, and just now the clouds came in, which is why I'm out here, because it's like kind of nice to not be in the sun. But this place, the temperature reading was at like 80 degrees. So if those vents had not been operating, this would easily be in the like 90 to 100 degree range, which is going to be way hotter than most of these plants are going to want to tolerate, and or future plants. So just like killer invention. Not my invention. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the brilliance of it, though. Okay, yeah, so last thing is going to be like future visions here. I'd love to have a nice big fig tree somewhere in ground. I want to keep doing like large containers for some tropical stuffs. I would love to do like a bay leaf tree, maybe some tropical fruit trees, maybe like a miracle berry bush, something that like you get some good bang for your buck. You know, I'm not out to like grow my own coffee and get 1 pound every 3 years. That's not gonna happen. But things that are more like, citrus. I want to grow citrus. I got a little tiny worm colony starting here. I'd love to do more like vermicomposting. Some worms are eventually going to live in that bed too. So that's my hope, and I'm also hoping and happy to like help other people do similar things, because it's an investment, no question, both time, money, energy, all that. But it's like such a quantum leap from the shelf and light in, that room to having like a whole amazing space dedicated to generating, it's gonna happen, to generating food. This is where the water stops. It's slowing down. Eventually, we're gonna hear a glug glug, and it will have stopped itself. You gonna do it? Maybe not. We'll stand by. Anyway, yeah, as my good friend Creighton has... Ta-da! It sounds like a tiny toilet flushed, and with that, it begins to fill itself. So cool. As my good friend Creighton has said, it's sort of like an uptick in inputs and outputs that you will, need to monitor the space and take care of it and maintain it and like build it. Like, it takes a lot, but fresh tropical plants and growing some fish protein and having like a mini tropical getaway or whatever you'd want to do with yours, it's like that's something else. That's a cool little dream to have come true, and I had the space and wherewithal in my life to do it. So anyway, that's the summary of this wild project, and if you have questions, throw a comment or two down there. I'll answer as I'm able to. The video production on this channel is not done, but it's I'm gonna back off from this one. I got some other worthy projects to move on to. So hopefully this is helpful and interesting, and if you like it, let me know, and yeah, if you have questions, let me know. Thanks.